Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. The next session will be by Bhante Aggacitta on the topic of what is Dhamma Therapy. In Dhammapada verse 204, the Buddha stated that health is the most precious gain and contentment, the greatest wealth. A trustworthy person is the best kinsman, Nibbana, the highest bliss. In this program today, we shall be exploring various techniques and modalities to improve our physical, mental, emotional, as well as our spiritual health. Some of you here, why you are attracted to come to this event, is for you to find out more about how do you actually solve your problem. You may be suffering from some chronic diseases or illnesses, and see what are the therapies here that can help you, that can work for you. Can the Buddha's teaching be a therapy to cure and heal? Next speaker is Āyasmā Aggacitta, the founder and spiritual director of Sasanaraka Buddhist Sanctuary, Taiping. He is a Malaysian Buddhist monk ordained in Myanmar in 1979, and his initial interest was in vipassanā meditation, and that eventually led him to critically study the Pali scriptures to check his meditative progress and also to practice more effectively. His passion is to share his discoveries and also to make the practice of mindfulness be more accessible to everyone and which is applicable in our daily lives. So Āyasmā coined the word Dhamma Therapy in his first book called Dhamma Therapy, Cases of Healing Through Vipassanā, which was published in 1984. And there was a translation of Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw's compilation of cases of miraculous healing in the course of intensive vipassana meditation. And in 2009, Āyasmā updated this work and published Dhamma Therapy Revisited as efforts to verify the positive effects of meditation on physical and mental wellness and mindfulness-based therapies that opens up new avenues for achieving wellness. Today, 40 years later, he now redefines Dhamma Therapy in a more broad and inclusive manner. In this event, we are very lucky to have Āyasmā Aggacitta here with us this morning to redefine with us Dhamma Therapy. Let us now hear from Āyasmā Aggacitta on what exactly is Dhamma Therapy. Let us all rise as Bhante enters the room.
Morning to everybody. Good to see so many of you. As the moderator has already said, I first coined the word Dhamma Therapy a long time ago, in 1984. That was just a couple of years after I became a monk. This is a new edition that was done in 2009. I revised it. The original one was published in 1984. Basically, Dhamma Therapy initially referred to healing by vipassana meditation. And we shall talk about it more tomorrow. This time around, I want to expand the definition of Dhamma Therapy to cover more things, not just healing through vipassana meditation, but any sort of healing therapy that can be found in the Pali Canon, particularly the Vinaya Pitaka, which is the basket of rules and regulations for monks. So let me give you an overview of the Dhamma Therapy that I'm redefining today. Number one, the first thing that a monk is introduced to once he becomes ordained is the four requisites. He's introduced to the four requisites, and then the default requisite of medicine is your own urine. That is a Buddha's medicine. In case nobody else provides you with any medicine, then you resort to your own urine. There are, of course, the other three requisites. One is food, the other is clothing and lodging. For food, you're supposed to depend on alms food, go around begging for alms. For lodging, of course, you go to the foot of a tree or a cave. Second, it's going to be about intermittent fasting. Nowadays, it seems to be a fad, right? But this was introduced by the Buddha more than 2,500 years ago. Then we also talk about the qualities of a sick monk who is easy to be nursed, and also the qualities of a good nurse, a monk who is attending to that sick monk. Fourthly, we talk about the 5 factors for successful striving found in this sutta called the Padāniyanga Sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya, Book of Fives, Sutta number 53. There's also one chapter on medicine in the Vinaya Pitaka, and you can see there a whole list of Ayurvedic prescriptions. So we are going to go through that, some of that anyway. The 6th way of healing therapy is listening to the 7 bhujangas, or 7 awakening factors. And the last one is Asserveration of Truth. I will go through all of these and explain in more detail. The last one is healing during meditation, which actually was the original meaning of Dhamma Therapy. But now I've expanded it to cover all these 8 aspects that can be found from the Pali Canon. For today, we are not going to cover all of them, because the first one will be covered on day 3 on urine therapy. Number 8 will be covered tomorrow. This will be dealt with in more detail. So today I'm just going to cover 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. As I said, intermittent fasting was discovered by the Buddha more than 2,500 years ago. And the Buddha says that he had tried it and he found that it's good for his health. I think just now also Brother Frank shared his own experience of going on sort of 8 precepts, not eating afternoon, and he felt that he was more healthy after that. The Buddha himself actually tried it out first, and then he encouraged his monks to do the same. Right? We all know that monks are not supposed to eat afternoon. Yeah, but nobody really told you the reason behind it. But that was the reason behind it, because the Buddha said it was good for him, it's good for health, and therefore he encouraged the monks to do so. And nowadays we have this 16 to 8 intermittent fasting, proven by scientific evidence that is more conducive to health. And you see here, 18:6. Actually, the Buddha asked the monks to eat in one session. Now that one session means from dawn to noon. It means you eat as many times as you can, as you want to, but within that frame of time. It means it's only, you eat within only 6 hours, and you fast for 18 hours. Whereas now they're propagating 16:8, right? You fast only for 16, and then you can eat for between 8 hours. And there are, of course, benefits here. Let's have a closer look at these benefits. You can see that it improves brain activity. It conduces to weight loss. It seems that it's possible prevention of prostate cancer, and also the reversal of type 2 diabetes, or a reduction of inflammation, increased eye production, insulin resistance, and anti-aging and life extension, heart health promotion. Okay, so there are many benefits that may be obtained by fasting. That means not eating after 12. But in the 16-18, it's not necessary after 12. They have their own timing, I think. As long as you are able to fast for 16 hours a day, then you will get all these benefits. Now let's look at this, weight loss. How about these people? Reports say that 60% of monks in Thailand are obese. Did they prove the Buddha wrong? Then look at what the papers say. Please don't feed junk to junky monks. Because they eat a lot of junk food. During the Buddha's time, everything was organic, everything was non-GMO. Now, most things are non-organic and most things are GMO. And also, our soils are depleted and we put a lot of artificial fertilizers. Correct? And not to talk about weed killers and insecticides. So we are contaminated. So earlier on, somebody was asking Frank, what is the food that we should eat? What can you eat now? Even if you practice Qigong and you absorb the Qi from the air, even the air is contaminated. So, some people say that monks should not be choosy. Right? You should take whatever people give you. Yeah, look at them. They take whatever people give them, they take, and that's how they end up. And also, Thai food is very nice and delicious. It always contains a lot of sugar, right? And that sugar also will put on weight. So it's not only intermittent fasting, but also what sort of food you eat. Just now, Frank was sharing. He was concentrating more on the second part, how to eat, and his idea of how to eat is intermittent fasting. But it's more than that. You have to select what you eat too. It's very important. What are the qualities of a sick monk? Easy to be nursed. All these obese people, they're actually sick, right? So they have a right to choose. So he does what's beneficial for curing the sickness. So what is beneficial for curing obesity? Yeah? Refrain from eating all those junk food. And whatever illness that you are suffering from, as Frank pointed out, the main cause is food, right? Lack of sleep. Also, that's another cause. Worry and these sort of things. So you should try to be selective. You should know the cause of your problem, of your illness, and then try to prevent that from deteriorating, getting worse, and try to cure yourself of the ailment by cutting away all those causes. Right? Besides eating the right sort of food, he has to be choosy. Then also he needs to practice intermittent fasting and so forth. And he should also know moderation, the right amount of what's beneficial. Don't say that it's good for me and so you eat a lot. And also he takes his medicine. Medicine does not mean only drugs. There's one philosophy of nutrition which says that food is medicine. In fact, the Eastern sciences of healing, Ayurveda and TCM, they focus more on what you eat, right? Whereas Western medicine doesn't care unless it's a modern nutritionist. Usually, it's just, you take the medication, that's good enough, don't worry. You can take whatever you eat. You can eat whatever you want. No need to abstain from this or abstain from that. Whereas you go to see an Ayurveda healer, you go to see a TCM healer, after taking a pulse, after checking you, he will ask you to keep away from such foods which are too heaty or such foods which are too much angin, too windy and too cooling and so forth. Who says a monk should not be choosy? He has to be choosy. You have to eat something which is good for his health. He should also accurately describe the symptoms to his nurse, and is able to bear up with painful bodily feelings. So here, these are the two things that are related to health, which is he knows what is beneficial for him to cure his sickness, and he also knows the right amount of what's beneficial. Then for a nurse who is taking care of the monk, she is capable of preparing medicine. As I said, medicine does not only mean drugs, but it also means food. So he must know what sort of food is suitable for him, what sort of food is not suitable for him, and so forth. Provides whatever is suitable and removes what is unsuitable. So he nurses the sick with loving kindness, not for the sake of worldly gain. Also, he's not disgusted with the excretions of the body. And he is also capable of giving instructions, inspiring and gladdening the sick person with the Dhamma talk from time to time. So here, in relation to healing, you should know what's beneficial and also what's harmful, and do the necessary to provide what's beneficial and to remove what's harmful. Here, in the 5 factors for successful striving, the first one is having faith in the Buddha's awakening. Second is he must have good health. He must have an even digestion that is neither too cool nor too hot, but moderate and suitable for striving. If it's too cool, then he will get flatulence because he cannot digest his food. If it's too hot, then he will get heaty and he will get all sorts of problems like headache and boils and pimples all sprouting up, make his body heaty and fall sick. Now, digestion is the pillar of Ayurveda. Ayurveda always says everything comes from your digestion. If you don't have good digestion, you cannot absorb the nutrients, then your body cannot heal itself. It's also the same with functional medicine. Functional medicine also goes to the root of gut health. That's very important. Now, he's got to be honest and sincere and open, has aroused energy, and possesses the wisdom that discerns arising and passing away, which leads to liberation. So here we can see that even if you want to strive successfully as a Buddhist practitioner, you need to have good health. That's very important. I think this has been disregarded in many traditional Buddhist countries like Myanmar and Thailand and Sri Lanka. And you see a lot of monks are not very healthy because they don't exercise. But I think we Malaysian monks are open to more things, and so you see Malaysian monks, they do Qigong, they do Tai Chi, they do yoga, they go for exercise, they go swimming, they do a lot of such things. But such things are unknown in Burma, for example. And so they don't do all these things, they just, meditate. But there's one good exercise that they do, only in the forest though, sweeping. The monks will sweep the whole forest hermitage, and that's very good, actually, very good exercise. It's almost like swimming. It's just that you exercise more of your upper body than the lower ones. During the Buddha's time, monks had to walk a lot. Right? You all know that walking is very good for you. In fact, it is one way of dealing with diabetes, exercise. The more you walk, your sugar level will lower. But nowadays, convenience of modern transport, monks don't walk anymore, they fly. Or they take the car. Now, there's one whole chapter on medicinal substances in the chapter on medicine, found in the Pitaka. I got this from a PhD thesis that was written by a Hong Kong a Hong Kong monk. That was his thesis. He wrote it on Vesajja Khandaka. So it saves me the trouble of having to extract everything there and translate it and put it in my slide. I just take it from his thesis and put it there. So I must acknowledge my gratitude to him for having done the work for me. And you can see that early on he was actually a qualified doctor. He got his MBBS from Sydney and he practiced for a few years before he became a monk. So his interest is in health and he has done a very good job in analyzing and presenting this chapter on medicine in the Vinaya Pitaka. So you can see here, yes, he has really classified them so nicely in from a very medical perspective. So you can see a whole list of that, but I just want to point out to you some interesting things. There's one here about salts. Actually, there's one very potent enzyme that is called Loṇasoviraka. Loṇasoviraka is a very interesting enzyme because it is made of so many things, almost anything. So you just put the ingredients in a pot and seal it for 1 to 3 years to ferment, to make it into an enzyme. You will have triphala, 3 myrobalums, and then all grain and corn, all cereals and pulses, 7 types of grain, cooked rice, bananas and all fruits. You have cane, flour, date palm sprouts, all sprouts of shoots, pieces of fish and meat. Then you have honey, molasses, and rock salt. Just put anything there. It's okay. It's like during Chinese New Year, you put everything into it and make it the soup. What do you call that? You put everything in there and then you just close the lid and seal it for 1 to 3 years. And you know what it's good for? Now let's see what's the end result. It seems that it has the color of rose apple juice and is excellent for food digestion. If you're having any problems with digestion, you just take this brew. It's not a brew, it's enzyme. And it's a perfect drink for wind, cough, leprosy, jaundice, and ulcer, and so forth. And it's also ideal after consuming oily food. Alternative to our Chinese tea. After oily food, you can take this instead. Then there's another chapter on diseases and treatments. A lot of prescriptions here are very Ayurvedic in nature. You can see a whole list of them. Now there's one interesting here that says that for headache, you're allowed to smoke. But not tobacco, They have herbs, they use herbs, certain herbs that are good for headache, and you smoke. The Buddha even allowed the monks to have a pipe, but not fancy-looking pipes, something that is usable. And here we have the usage of urine, feces, ashes, and clay. So if a monk gets bitten by a snake, then he should immediately use his own urine and his feces and then mix it with ash and mix it with clay and apply and eat it. Can you do that? You want to live or you want to die? It's a matter of life or death. Well, when I was in Burma, way back in the 1980s, I lived in a forest monastery by myself for about 7 years. And that forest monastery actually belonged to the village monastery. So in the village monastery, there were 2 monks who were very, very interested in healing. Monks are not supposed to practice medicine. Out of compassion, you could say, they practice medicine. And one of the things they did, because that was a forest area, so people get bitten by snakes. They thought of this formula. Of course, what they would do is they would dry everything, clear the smell so there's no smell. Just take the dried stuff and then they would compound it into powder or something. And they would ask the victim to eat it and also apply on the wound. And it seems it worked. It worked. Yeah, I know. I see some of you grimace your face, yeah? But it's a matter of life or death. And here, the writer of this thesis, he labeled it as psychiatry. Well, but it's not really psychiatry. In the Sutta, it's called Amanussikābadho, which means to say is a disease that is created by human-like beings, humanoids, which are actually spirits. So they will prescribe something for that. That is so much for the chapter on medicine. There are actually a lot of things that we can learn from there. I don't have the time to go through all of them. A lot of details are given. Then we come to listening to the 7 factors of awakening. You're all aware of the 7 factors of awakening, right? You can see up there on the slide. Mindfulness, Dhamma, investigation, energy, rapture, tranquility, composure, equanimity. In the Suttas, they said that there were on 3 separate occasions when the monks, Mahakassapa and Moggallana, they were sick, and then the Buddha recited, talked about, discoursed on these 7 factors of awakening. And then while they were listening to it, probably they were also activating the 7 factors of awakening within themselves. They got healed. At another time, the Buddha himself was sick. And then he got another monk to study for him, and he also recovered. And there's also another sutta, it's too long so I didn't put it here. It's the Girimananda Sutta, where so the Buddha gave a series of 10 reflections to a monk who was sick. He asked Āyasmā Aggacitta to go to see him and then talk about these 10 types of reflection. And while listening to that, he also was healed. So this is listening. But nowadays, I'm sure that you've heard of this Bojjhanga, paritta. Yeah, when people are sick, they will invite monks to come and they will recite this. But it's not the actual sutta itself. It's extracted from the sutta. And extracted, and then they made it into a verse. The original suttas are not in verses. It's in prose form. Now, besides just reciting it, because the actual story is that the Buddha just talked about it. He wasn't reciting. He talked about it. And then the patients just listened, and then they got healed. So while they were listening, they probably also activated 7 factors of awakening within themselves, and then they got healed. But nowadays, it's not because of that. They add an extra line at the end called the Asserveration of Truth. So how does it go? Now, it has been, nowadays, what they recite, as I said, is extracted from the suttas, and they have created it in verse form. So I will give you the first verse, just for you to know what it's about. Chant it in Pali, and then you read the English. Bojjhango sati sankhato dhammanam vichayo tatha viriyam piti passadhi bojjhanga tatha pare samadupekka bojjhanga sattete sabpadasina munina sammadakkhata bhavita bahulikata Sangvattanti abhinyaya nibbanaya jabodhiya etena saccavajjena sottite hodu sabpada. So you see, it ends with an asseveration of truth. As I said, originally the asseveration of truth was not included in the suttas. This was added much later. But this asseveration of truth actually has a basis, because this was first given by the Buddha himself to Angulimala. You have heard of Angulimala, the very infamous monk who was a serial killer before he became a monk. And somehow the Buddha managed to convert him, to cut a long story short. And then, after he became a monk, he went on alms round. And at that time, he had not yet awakened. He had not yet attained any stage of awakening. He was not a street mentor, he was not an arahant, he was just worldling. He was converted by the Buddha, he changed his mind completely, he turned into a new leaf, became harmless, and he went on alms round. And the person who was a serial killer, who had killed so many people, suddenly became very compassionate when he heard or saw a woman undergoing labor pains, trying to give birth but could not do so, going through labor pains, and he felt so much compassion. Very interesting, isn't it? He was a serial killer, a cold-blooded serial killer, and then now after he became a monk, he had compassion just by hearing that. And then he came back to the Buddha and he reported to the Buddha. Then the Buddha gave him this asserveration of truth. How does he go? This, since I was born, sister, by virtue of the noble birth, I'm not aware of having... Actually, the Buddha at first told him, just recite this. Since I was born, sister, I am not aware of having purposely deprived a being of life. By this truth, may you have well-being and your baby also. So the second line wasn't there. The Buddha said, since I was born, sister, I'm not aware of having purposely deprived a being of life. He asked Angulimala to say that. And then Angulimala was shocked. He says, I will be telling a lie because I killed so many people. Then the Buddha said, okay. When the Buddha says, when I was born, he was actually referring to being born as a monk in the Sangha. So to placate him, then he said, okay, you add this additional verse, this additional clause. Since I was born by virtue of the noble birth. Noble birth means not becoming an enlightened person. A noble birth means becoming a member of the Sangha. He was not yet enlightened. Then the commentary explained that because of his past bad karma, people who were so afraid of him, when they saw him coming in robes, they would run and hide. And so he couldn't get enough food to eat. And because of that, he couldn't strive properly. And so they said that the Buddha had compassion for him and then gave him this asserveration of truth so that he could at least, change the minds of people and show that he was now a compassionate person. Now this asserveration, let's listen to this first. Okay, I'm going to show it to you here.
Yatoham bhagini aryaya jatiya jato nabhijanami sanchicchapanam jivita voropeta tena satchena sottite hotu sottigabbassa.
Since I was born, sister, by virtue of the noble birth, I'm not aware of having purposely deprived a being of life. By this truth may you have well-being and your baby also. Usually we would recite it 7 times. And this is something very miraculous. Because this was given to Angulimala. But now, anyone can recite it, whether you're a monk, a nun, or a layperson, and it still works. And it doesn't have to be in the presence of the mother. It can also be done remotely. Give you a couple of examples from my own experience. One time when I was still starting SBS, that was way back in the early 2000s. So there was a lot of construction going on. One day, while I was about to have my lunch, one of the contractors approached me and asked me for help because his wife is now in the maternity hospital and then he couldn't give birth. I'm going to have my lunch. So I say, I haven't seen the wife before. And I don't know which ward she is in. And I said, it's okay, don't tell me her name, don't tell me her ward. You just tell me, is your wife. That's good enough. I can make the connection. So from there, I just chanted. Remotely, I was chanting it in my office. And she was in the maternity ward. And then after that, she went back. Okay, no problem. And then another more interesting case is when I was in Sarawak, in Kuching. I was conducting a workshop there. It's a good death workshop, I think. And at the end of the workshop, just as I was going back, a distraught lady approached me and said, Bhante, please help. My daughter is in UK, and then she's about to give birth, but she cannot get a place in the maternity hospital. No room for her available. And also the baby also has a problem coming out. So I said, okay, never mind. You take a video of me, right? You take a video of me while I'm chanting, and then you send the video to your to your daughter in UK. And she did that. And she got a room, and she had a safe delivery. So it's amazing, right? But it doesn't have to be a monk, Anybody can chant. One of my mentors in my young monk days was Reverend Sujivo. Now he's back in Malaysia. He's been in Europe for a long time. One of his disciples, I think down in the south, in Kota Tinggi, at that time he was staying in Kota Tinggi. He had wife was going to give birth to a child. He asked the husband to chant it for her. Yeah? And then he chanted it for her. And then the childbirth was like, very simple, no pain, like going to the toilet, doing a big business. So don't have to invite monks, you can do it yourself, okay? Now this asserveration of truth, as I said, is very, very miraculous, because this was given to Angulimala, not to us. But anyone can chant it and it still works. I don't know how it works. It can also work, remotely. We talk about remote healing, right? Reiki and all that. But this also, remote chanting also, it helps. But nowadays, it is found in many other suttas. Like for example, Ratana Sutta has got an asserveration of truth at the end of each verse. Ratana Sutta, I suspect, was not an early sutta. It was added much later. And actually, I have good reasons to suspect so, because it cannot be found in the Agamas, the Chinese Agamas, the Sanskrit Agamas. It can only be found elsewhere, and is found together with the commentary. Right? The commentary has a story behind it. Our Theravāda commentary has a story behind the Ratana Sutta, right? The Pali Canon itself, there's no story. There's just the verses. And we don't know under what circumstances it was recited. But in the Chinese version, there is that it is together with the commentary. So I suspect that it's a late addition to the Pali Canon. Also in the Jatakas, can be found a lot of this asserveration of truth, but also it is in the later Jatakas. Then the Chariya Pitaka is definitely a very late addition, because it's about how the Buddha practiced his paramis. The Bodhisattva practiced his paramis in his previous lifetimes as the mora, which is a peacock, or as a quail, or whatever. And all these ends with a asserveration of truth. Ojanga paritta, we just talked about it just now. It also ends with a asserveration of truth at every end of each verse. And also nowadays also you have blessings given by monks. They also end with this asserveration of truth. How much time do I have, moderator? 5 minutes. Cannot tell you any stories. Okay, I got some stories to tell you, but no time, so no story. Oh yeah, this is the last one. So got 5 more minutes to 25. Oh, so I can tell a lot of stories. Okay, let me go back here. What was I going to talk about? Yeah, I know what story. Yeah. Let me see. Oh yes, my own experience. It was during the early COVID, 2020, I think. And so we have to all register in MICE, etc., and look out for, where we can get our appointment. So one day I got an appointment from the local center, vaccination center. They informed me that I had to go to this start vaccination. So I went there, and I found out that they were doing Pfizer. I didn't want a Pfizer. So all the time, even before I got the appointment, I've been making an asserveration of truth every morning. May I not get Pfizer? May I get Sinovac? But I did something since I started sitting meditation. I've been encouraging people to practice mindfulness in daily life. By the power of this truth, may I not get Pfizer? Okay, first round, went there, all lining up. And then there's an attending doctor there, isn't it? So the attending doctor will check your history. So I told him, last time, many years ago, it's just before I started SBS. I went out for a walk in the jungle, and I got stung by bees, small little tiny bees. It stung me all over. And then I went somebody took me to the clinic. And then while at the clinic, I fainted. And then passed motion, big and small, and passed while I fainted. And then, in that case, you cannot take. If something happens to you, we cannot handle. You got to go to the hospital. So he asked me to go to the GH. I went to the GH, General Hospital. Not the Pusat vaccination. But Pusat vaccination don't have the facilities. If something happened to you, they can't handle. So asked me to go to the GH. I went to GH, explained the situation to the GH. And then they say, today is not vaccination day. I got to give you an appointment when we are doing the vaccination. I asked, what are you giving? Pfizer, second time, So I went back. And they call me. Say, okay, can you come tomorrow morning? Such and such a day, morning, come, morning. Hey, Kak, saya orang Sami. Morning is not convenient for me. I got to eat. So can you give me an appointment, afternoon appointment? Okay, in that case, you hold on, and we'll try to arrange an afternoon one for you. And then, that was over the weekend. And then on Saturday, I checked my Masajatra, and I found that, hey, Masajatra gave me a new appointment now, but to a Chinese clinic, private clinic. Private clinics, they don't have the facilities to keep Pfizer vaccination, right? You need to have very cold storage. So when they go to Chinese clinic, it means that it's going to be Sinovac. They asked me to go on Monday. So I went on Monday. Then on Monday evening, the hospital called me again. We got an appointment for you tomorrow. Please come tomorrow. I said, thank you, I'm done already. So actually I got Sinovac, saved 3 times. So you can actually make your own asserveration of truth. You just have to state something which you have done, something which is altruistic, something spiritual, something altruistic that you are doing for the good of other people, and then you can tell yourself, by the power of this truth, may this and this happen. There's also the story of a faith healer in Burma. This faith healer, unlike other traditional Burmese healers, they don't go around with a big bag full of medicine, all the Ayurvedic medicine. Just goes around on his bicycle, nothing. And then he would go there. What he would do? He would go there, and then let's say a patient, somebody from the house will invite him, and he says, my mother is very sick. Can you help to heal my mother? And he said, okay, very easy. Just repeat after me. I am my mother's daughter. By the power of this truth, may you be healed. It worked. So that's why this asserveration of truth, has pervaded through a lot of new huntings that came about after the Buddha's death. Yeah, they inserted this everywhere, But of course, there are also other things that need to be considered. Yeah, sometimes even if your karma is so bad, even the Buddha himself cannot help you. Right? So this asserveration of truth will work only when this itself is supporting karma. If you have supporting karma that will help you, then this is one of them that can help you. Otherwise, if it's a very bad karma, no one can help you. You just have to accept it. Okay, so I think I will end here. And any questions, please feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you very much, Bhante Aggacitta, for his enlightening sharing with us. I think the story is never enough, Bhante. We'll love to hear more miraculous healing stories from Bhante Aggacitta when we have the opportunity. We'd like to open the floor for any questions for Bhante Aggacitta. Again, it will be the same as before. We have usherers to please stand in the box over there and you can actually ask your question. Okay, so we have a brother over there. You may ask your question.
Good morning, Bhante. Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I believe Bhante is from a Theravāda tradition, and there's also a Mahayana tradition. Usually, Mahayanis, they eat vegetarian food, but Theravādians, they eat anything that people give, as you said, the obese monk. One of the tenets of 5 precepts is not to kill. And I understand too that the food that is given to the monks, if it's meat, it has already been killed. It is not the wish of the monk to eat meat. But if less and less lay people bring meat for the monks, the possibility of animals being killed will reduce because demand is not there. What is your opinion on increasing non-meat food for Theravādian monks in this kind of reasoning?
Your question is not related to health, it's more related to compassion for beings, right?
Yes. Yeah. But eventually, if I am not mistaken, eating plant-based foods lead to better health?
Yeah.
Eating plant-based foods or vegetarian food, low salt, low oil, low sugar, might also lead to better health, am I right?
Well, it really depends on your blood type.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some people, the blood type is such that they cannot be vegetarian.
Oh,
for example, the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama tried to be a vegetarian for several years, and he suffered health-wise until he had to resort back to eating meat. On the other hand, my preceptor, Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw, he was a vegetarian not by choice, but by circumstance. Because if he ate any meat, then he would go get rashes and itching all over the body. So it really depends on each person. Some people's blood are such that they need to have animal protein. Some, they are okay with just pure vegetarian. That's why the Buddha, you heard the story of the Buddha and Devadatta. Devadatta was the Buddha's cousin, and he was very ambitious. He wanted to usurp the Buddha and take over the Sangha. Then he pretended to be very austere. So one day he presented several points to the Buddha to ask the Buddha to impose this on all bhikkhus. Now, one of them is to be a vegetarian. Then the Buddha says, no, depends. I allow monks to eat meat, provided they don't suspect, or hear, or see that meat has been, that animal has been specifically killed for their consumption. Because the Buddha understood people have different circumstances. He also demanded or requested the Buddha to make it compulsory that the monks should not stay under a dwelling. They should always stay under the foot of a tree. The Buddha says also, no, it depends. If you want to stay under the tree, can. Then if somebody offers you a dwelling also, you can stay. So the Buddha was very flexible. His main purpose was to help beings at different levels of spiritual maturity to make progress in whatever way they could.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We shall have another question here from the sister.
Bhante, all the slides that you show, is it in your book?
What?
All the slides and the notes, is it in your book?
Which book?
The Dhamma Therapy.
No. This one is a revised new one.
So it's not even in the revised book?
No. This one I just created 2 weeks ago.
Okay, thank you.
The book was actually in 2009, right?
Yeah.
Bhante? Yeah, so it's already 15 years later. Updated version today. All right. Okay. Do we have any other questions from the floor?
Good morning, Bhante. Actually, for in the olden days, Buddha mentioned the 4 great elements. So, in the history of modern medicine, they also use similar kind of 4 great elements. They called it 4 humor. And then I would like to have more information on this. How they developed the 4 great elements to the modern medicines, or even in Chinese medicine, they have 5 great elements. Yeah. So they use this kind of elements for the balance of the body and for the achieve the health. So could Bhante share more about these 4 great elements?
4 and 5 elements.
Yeah, thanks.
That one I think I will leave to Madam Hyang. She's an expert in Ayurveda.
Okay,
and also Mr. Wee, TCM practitioner who will be coming tomorrow or today. Tomorrow, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes, we do have a pretty much comprehensive lineup of various healing modalities coming up tomorrow and the day after. Right, maybe let me take a question from the online question. Besides traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, is there any place for homeopathy in terms of healing, one of the holistic approach to healing?
Place where?
In
scriptures or in Malaysia?
Whoever the question was asked, is it from? I suppose it's more of like self-healing.
Homeopathy can be found in Malaysia. I mean, there are some places where they offer this. It's not found in the scriptures though.
Okay, so I hope that answers the question. Yeah. All right. Okay, there's another question, Bhante. When we recite the parittas chanting, does it have to be in tonality, or you can just read it out as per English, where we just read and just chant it out? Yes.
Come again.
The scripture, the paritta chanting, can we just read it out, or does it have to be chanted in tonality?
I guess you can just read it out. Yes.
Okay, so you can just read it out. All right. Okay, that would also be the same effect as chanting in tonality. Right. Any more questions from the floor?
Good morning, Bhante. Actually, you mentioned about the psychiatry one. I think we got a bit of time. It would be lovely to hear your story about how you treated non-humans on the psychiatry you brought up earlier.
On psychiatry. But actually it's not psychiatry because he was a medical doctor and he said that if you talk about spirit involvement, medical community will frown. So he put it as psychiatry. But actually it seems that a non-human being, which is a spirit, had caused an illness to this person. And so this monk was prone to eating raw meat and drinking blood. But it was not the monk who was eating, it was the spirit that possessed him, that wanted to eat the raw meat and to drink the blood. So the Buddha made an allowance for him, in order to placate the spirit, for him to go ahead and eat raw meat and drink blood. But it was only a specialized allowance for that particular monk. And it seems that after doing that, the spirit went away. I don't know.
Hi Bhante. I've known about urine therapy for quite some time. Urine therapy? Urine. Yeah, urine therapy.
Yeah.
Never tried before. I'm trying to research and all that, but does there any scientific research or medical research done to prove that it's actually useful? Since Buddha has mentioned that 2,500 years ago, I would like to know more about it. Thank you.
We'll talk about it on day 3. Day 3, details. And how to practice urine therapy, and also to give you a reference for scientific evidence.
Yeah, there'll be one whole entire session on urine therapy on Sunday.
So don't miss it.
Yeah, so don't miss it. So you get a little bit of teaser today, and then be on suspense, and then you get it on Sunday. All right, okay. I think we have another question over here.
Sometimes we got a lot of knowledge of knowing what should we eat and the amount we should take. We understand the knowledge like what is good for the body and what amount to take. But when come to practice, I find it struggle a lot and feel myself very lousy because I can't do it. A lot of times I need to wait until the body cannot take it anymore. Then I have to stop it. The method is like when I have symptom on the body, then it's like a force for me to stop. Instead of knowing it, I will start practicing it. So I struggle with this. I just want to have some advice.
Struggle with it in what way?
The old habit.
Old habit.
Yes, between the tongue, the pleasure of the tongue and good for the body. And it took many years to just change the habit. I feel frustrated. I need help. Thank you.
Attend my retreat. Yeah, anyone else? No?
Any more? If not, I'll take another online question. Bhante, which sutta is advisable for individuals who are going through depression to chant daily? Or someone who is always in negative thoughts? How do we actually advise them? What kind of chanting would be beneficial?
Oh, I see. Oh, depressive thoughts are always about churning thoughts about something negative about yourself or about other people. There is a prescription for people who have that sort of mentality, which is to do the opposite, which is to generate loving kindness. So you can do loving kindness, you can chant the sutta itself, the Karaniya Metta Sutta, or you could just chant a portion of it, which I teach my students to do, which I will also talk about in detail tomorrow. It's a Sukhino chant, how helpful it is and how wonderful it can be.
Right, so hope that answers your question. That's also a follow-up of that question by another questioner. If we were to chant the paritta remotely for another individual, in this case, the questioner asked for its 80-year-old mother who's always dwelling in negative thoughts. So how does this questioner be able to chant remotely for the benefit of his or her 80-year-old mother?
As I said, there are limitations to that. I'm talking about chanting remotely in terms of the Asserveration of Truth, not just any suttas, Asserveration of Truth. And also there is sharing of merits, which is one thing that could also be helpful. But then not the sharing of dana merits, because the merits of dana, of making offerings, material offerings, is the lowest class of merits. And the highest class of merits, there are two. One is doing loving kindness for all beings, and the second is vipassanā. So these two are very special. Once you have achieve that, and then you share merits, then it can be very effective.
Thank you. Thank you.
There is a time or not?
Got a lot of time.
This story comes from Thailand. So there's this, I'm sure you've heard of Longpo Charan, Wat Ampawan, the very famous Longpo who has thousands of students, got lots and lots of stories, and the students have compiled them into a book called the what is this? It's Dhamma series. Then it gives a lot of accounts. One of these accounts is of a monk from Sweden or Norway, somewhere from there. And then he came to meditate and become a temporary monk with Longpo Charan. That time his grandmother was very sick, was having some problems. So he asked Longpo whether he could do anything to help her. Then Longpo said, well, can. Meditate. He was doing vipassanā at that time. And after that, you do mettā, and then you share merits. So this monk, this temporary monk, he took note of the time and the date that he did that. And later on, he checked and he found that something miraculous happened. During that time, grandma recovered. So this can be done remotely, but it's not just making an offering. It is something, it's a high-end sort of merit. This high-end merit is either doing loving kindness or vipassanā or both. Then when you share this, it doesn't matter whether that person knows about it or not, or whether he rejoices in it or not, it can still be effective, depending on the strength of your meditation. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante.
One more question?
Yeah, we shall take another floor question.
Bhante, just now, two types of higher form of merits are mentioned, which is the mettā and the vipassanā. So how about other form of samatha practice? Samatha meditation. Does it carry the same weight as mettā in terms of merits?
I got this from Anguttara Nikaya. It's called the Velama Sutta, where the Buddha was talking about his past life as a Brahmin called Velama. So at that time, he was a very rich Brahmin, and then he did a lot of dana. He made a lot of charity for the public. Described the grandeur of his dana. But then he said at the end of which, at that time, even though I made so much merit, even though I gave so much charity, the feel of merit was not there. That is nothing compared to doing this. And then he gave a whole list of things to do. First one he would say is to give a dana to the Sangha. One. Number two is, higher than that would be to take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Higher than that would be to observe the 5 precepts. Higher than that would be to radiate mettā to all beings. For how long? For as long as it takes to pull the udder of a cow. And to milk a cow, you pull. If your mettā to all beings can be done for just that 1 second or so, that is even higher than observing the 5 precepts. Then, even higher than that is the ability to observe the arising and passing away of the 5 aggregates. That is the highest. That is even higher than doing mettā. How long do you have to see the arising and passing away of the 5 aggregates? Just a moment. But there's nothing mentioned about the other type of meditations. Only these 2 meditations are mentioned. Mettā and vipassanā.
So in all the suttas, is this the only sutta that mentioned about this?
Correct.
Oh. I ask this question is because the practice of meditation, whether it's samatha or vipassanā, and before vipassanā, usually we start with samatha also in some way. Before we really go into vipassanā, we got to start with samatha in some way also, right? So in this practice of samatha also, people are able to stay away from 5 hindrances. Then that is a type of purification. So the merits is there, undoubtedly, correct? So
yeah, I guess from that point, once you have abandoned the 5 hindrances and your mind is pure, if you make an asserveration of truth, it will be very powerful. That is also what is called the adhitthana iddhi, which means to say, once you come out of that concentrated, that very composed state, and you make a resolution, may this happen, then the thing can happen. It's not as an asserveration of truth. There's this story of Pilinda Vacha. He was a monk during the Buddha's time, an arahant. 2 of the children of his close supporter were kidnapped and put in a multi-story building. So what he did was, in a very deep samadhi, came out of it, and he made an adhitthana. Let the doors be open, and they came out. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Thank you. All right, we have another one sister over there.
Morning, Bhante. First thing, Asserveration of Truth, the aircon is really like freezing. Okay, my question is, in this Dhamma Therapy, what I'm seeing is all a collection of healing modalities, correct, Bhante? So in healing as a practitioner, I would like to know, last time, is my view correct that we have a lot of, even the Chinese and what we're saying is that if you try to heal someone, you're actually taking somebody's karmic condition. Is this correct? Personally, I have been told, because I used to be a healer, and I've been told is that also in the Buddhism, because also I think Buddha did not encourage us to practice healing.
Yeah.
So I have also stopped, and then as a result, it is like, first is people was telling us that if you do healing, you must always do what you call that, we have to send back merits, share merits. So in sharing merits, or we are trying to deal with the other spirits or whatever nature that a person's cause and condition was affected by our past life. So how does this Dhamma Therapy is able to reconciliate the person's cause and condition and whatever spirits or whatever karmic condition that one is going through for practitioners?
Okay, let me sum it up. My point of view is that it depends on what sort of healing. When I talk about mental illness like depression and anxiety, we are not doing a healing like an energy healing, When you do energy healing, there's something else. Yeah, energy healing is a bit dangerous because you could deplete your energy by doing that. If this is just teaching the method, how to get over your depression, if you do it this way, watch your mind, do this, anchor your mind, and so forth, that is teaching the method. That is harmless. In fact, that is very meritorious activity. Yeah. But on the other hand, if you do actual healing, like putting your hands on somebody, and then trying to heal that person, that is another story. That is not part of Buddhism, though. But I've heard about it. I do Reiki healing for myself, and also all this energy healing. Masters always say that when you heal, you don't use your own energy to heal. You use the universal energy, and you are just a transmitter, and you heal. After that, you have to cut it off. You actually have to make an actual physical movement to cut off, because there's some sort of energy that is linked between you now and the patient, mentally and physically. That's all I can say. We don't have time now.
Yeah, so if you have any more questions, I'm sure you do, you may actually write it down later in the on a piece of paper. It will actually be placed outside at the secretariat table during the break time, so you can actually write it down, and then we will address it during forum if time permits. All right, okay, so I think we will take a break now, right? Thank you, Bhante, once again, for your session as well as the Q&A session. We shall now invite Bhante Aggacitta for the lunch dana. So please rise as Bhante leaves the room. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.